Okay, so I need to talk about something that happened to me last week, because it is still bothering me, and I think it is the perfect way to start this conversation.
Go ahead.
So I went through a really painful breakup recently, like genuinely painful, and I was talking to a friend about it, and she looked at me and said, "You just need to be more stoic about it. Stop crying, toughen up, move on."
Hmm.
And I was so frustrated. Because I went home and I looked it up and everything, I found basically said the same thing. Stoicism means not showing emotion, being tough, being cold, and I thought, is that what this is? Because I cry at dog videos and I am not changing that.
Okay. I need to tell you something right now. Your friend gave you terrible advice based on a terrible definition, and I say that with love for your friend, but she was completely wrong.
Oh, thank God, because honestly, if Stoicism means stop having feelings, I am out.
You are not out. You are exactly where you need to be, and let me tell you why. Let me tell you about the most famous Stoic in history, a man named Marcus Aurelius. He was the emperor of Rome, the most powerful man in the entire world.
Okay,
And Marcus Aurelius cried a lot. He wept when his tutor Fronto died. He grieved openly when he lost friends. He wrote about his pain in his private journal. This was the most powerful man on the planet, and he felt everything deeply.
wait. The Emperor of Rome cried? In his diary?
In his diary, a book we now call Meditations. It was never meant to be published. It was his private journal, and it is full of raw, honest emotion, grief, frustration, self-doubt. This was not a man who suppressed his feelings. This was a man who felt deeply and then chose how to respond.
Oh my God, that is so different from what I expected.
It is, and that is the number one misconception about Stoicism. People hear the word Stoic with a lowercase s, and they think it means emotionless, cold, robotic. But Stoicism with a capital S, the actual philosophy, is something completely different.
Okay, so what is it actually?
Stoicism is a practical operating system for living well in a chaotic world. It is a toolkit. It is a set of practices and principles that help you navigate uncertainty, loss, and chaos with clarity and purpose. It does not ask you to stop feeling. It asks you to understand your feelings and then choose your response wisely.
A practical operating system. I like that. That makes it sound useful, not just academic.
It is incredibly useful, and to understand why, I want to tell you where it came from, because the origin story of Stoicism is one of the best stories in the history of philosophy.
Okay, I am ready.
About 2,300 years ago, around 300 BC, there was a merchant named Zeno. Zeno of Citium. He was a wealthy trader sailing across the Mediterranean, carrying a cargo of purple dye in the ancient world. Purple dye was worth a fortune. This man was rich.
Okay,
And then his ship sank. Everything he had, his entire livelihood, gone in a single day. Zeno washed up on shore with nothing. He was bankrupt. He was broken. He had lost everything.
oh wow.
And here is where it gets incredible. Zeno wandered into Athens. He had nowhere else to go, and he walked into a bookshop, just a random bookshop, and the bookseller was reading aloud from the works of Socrates. And something clicked. Zeno sat down and listened, and he kept coming back. He started studying philosophy. He started asking questions about how to live a good life when everything has been taken from you.
Wait. So the greatest philosophy in Western history started because a man went bankrupt and wandered into a bookshop?
That is exactly what happened. Zeno eventually started teaching his own philosophy, and he taught on a painted porch in Athens called the Stoa Poikile, the painted porch, and that is where the name comes from, Stoicism named after a porch.
Ha. Named after a porch that is actually kind of perfect for a philosophy that is supposed to be practical and down to earth.
It is perfect, and here is what I want you to notice about that story. Stoicism was not born in a palace. It was not born in a university. It was born from someone's worst day, a man who lost everything and had to figure out how to keep going.
That is actually really relatable, like, it is a philosophy born from crisis, not from comfort.
Exactly. And that is why it works so well for people who are going through hard times. It was designed for hard times. It was built by someone who had nothing left to lose.
Okay. So I am starting to see that Stoicism is not what I thought it was, but I still need you to help me understand something, because my friend told me to stop crying, and you are telling me that Marcus Aurelius cried. So what does Stoicism actually say about emotions?
This is the most important thing I can tell you today, so listen carefully.
I am listening.
Stoicism does not ask you to stop feeling, it asks you to stop being controlled by feeling. There is a massive difference between those two things.
Say that again.
Stoicism does not ask you to stop feeling, it asks you to stop being controlled by feeling. You can grieve your breakup fully. You can cry. You can feel the pain. The Stoics would say you should feel the pain, but then you choose your response. You do not let the grief destroy your next 6 months. You do not let the pain make your decisions for you.
Oh, so it is not about being cold, it is about being intentional.
That is exactly right. Intentional, that is the word. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, wrote something beautiful about this. He said, "The wise man is not insensible to pain. He merely overcomes it. He feels everything. He just does not let it drive the bus."
The wise man is not insensible to pain. He merely overcomes it. That is beautiful.
And here is what the Stoics would say about your friend's advice. They would say her advice was the opposite of Stoic. A real Stoic would say, feel the pain of your breakup, understand it, sit with it, and then choose your response wisely. Do not suppress it, do not ignore it, but do not let it run your life either.
Okay, that actually makes me feel so much better, because I was starting to think there was something wrong with me for being emotional.
There is nothing wrong with you. The Stoics would say, your emotions are information, they are signals. Grief tells you that you loved something, anger tells you that a boundary was crossed, fear tells you that something matters to you. The goal is not to silence those signals, the goal is to listen to them and then decide what to do.
Emotions are information, not commands.
Exactly. Not commands information, and that distinction changes everything.
Okay, so I want to go deeper on something you mentioned earlier. You said Stoicism is about the gap between what happens to you and how you respond. Can you explain that?
Yes, this is the core promise of Stoicism, and it comes from the very first line of one of the most important Stoic texts ever written. Epictetus, a former slave who became one of the greatest philosophers in history, wrote this. Some things are within our power, while others are not.
Some things are within our power, while others are not. That sounds simple.
It sounds simple, but it is the foundation of everything in Stoicism. You cannot control what happens to you. You cannot control other people. You cannot control the economy, the weather, whether someone loves you back, whether you get the promotion. But you can control how you respond. You can control your judgments, your effort, your character, your values, and that gap between the event and your response. That is where your freedom lives.
The gap between event and response is where freedom lives. Wow, that is powerful.
And think about your breakup. You could not control your partner's decision. That was not in your power, but you can control what you do with the pain. You can control whether you grow from it or whether you let it define you. That choice, that gap, that is Stoicism in action.
Okay. I am starting to understand why this philosophy has been around for over 2,000 years. It is not abstract, it is actually about real life.
It is entirely about real life, and that is why it is having such a massive revival right now. Think about the world we live in. Anxiety is at record levels. We are drowning in information. Social media is designed to trigger emotional reactions. We feel like we have no control over anything. And here is this ancient philosophy saying, you are right, you do not control most things, but here is what you do control, and that is enough.
So the same problems the ancient world faced, we are facing now, just with smartphones.
Same problems, different technology. The human wiring has not changed in 2,000 years. We still get anxious. We still get angry. We still try to control things we cannot control. The Stoics figured out how to deal with all of that, and their solutions still work.
Okay, so before we wrap up, I want to try something. You mentioned a practice earlier. Something I can actually do today. What is it?
I love that you are asking for something practical. That is very Stoic of you. By the way, the Stoics believed philosophy is useless if you do not practice it.
Ha! Look at me being Stoic already.
Here is what I want you to try. I call it the misconception audit for the rest of today and tomorrow. Just notice every time you hear or see the word Stoic used to mean emotionless or cold in conversation. On social media and articles, just notice it. Do not correct anyone. Simply observe the gap between the popular meaning and what you learned today.
Just notice it. That is it?
That is it. And here is the beautiful thing, that act of noticing, of separating the impression from the reality, that is your first Stoic act. You are already practicing the philosophy just by observing more carefully.
Oh, that is clever, okay. I am doing it starting right now.
Good.
Okay. Let me pull together what we learned today because I want to make sure I have got this right.
Please?
Number 1. Stoicism is not about suppressing emotions. It is about understanding them and choosing your response wisely. The greatest Stoics felt deeply. Marcus Aurelius cried. Seneca grieved openly. They just did not let feelings drive the bus. Number 2. Stoicism was born from crisis. Zeno lost everything in a shipwreck and built a philosophy for navigating life's worst moments. It is a toolkit for bad days, not a luxury for good ones. Number 3. The core Stoic insight is that you cannot control what happens to you, but you can control how you respond. That gap between event and response is where your freedom lives. And number 4. Stoicism is a philosophy of action, not passivity. It gives you practical tools for dealing with uncertainty, loss, and chaos. It is not about sitting back and accepting everything. It is about choosing wisely and acting with purpose.
That was perfect. You just summarized 2,300 years of philosophy in 4 sentences.
Ha! I had a good teacher.
Zeno would be proud.
If this changed how you think about Stoicism, follow Stoicism mentality wherever you are listening. New episodes drop every week.